So I'm Rachel Finkelstein. I'm a master's student here at MIT in urban planning, and I just want to welcome you to our breakout session on local policy. So with us today, we have three experts on our panel. Starting from the left, we have Henrietta Davis, who is the former mayor of the city of Cambridge, and Cynthia Green, the manager of the Climate and Energy Unit from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and one of my classmates, Eric Chu, from the Department of Urban Studies and Planning, a PhD student. So the way this is going to go is we're going to hear from each of the winners. They'll each speak for about 3 minutes, some by video, some here in person, and then after that, we're going to hear from each of our experts with some feedback and some ideas for the conversation that's going to happen afterwards. So I guess we can get started. We are first hearing from the Food Bikes contest, or the Food Bikes proposal, low capital, low footprint alternative to food trucks. And we have John here with us right now. Hi, John.
Hello. My name is John Romankowitz. My friends call me Sustainable John, or Susty for short. And I'm a UC Berkeley graduate student in the Energy and Resources group. And it's a great opportunity to speak here and potentially collaborate with you all. So thank you to Climate Collab for that, making that happen. So I wanted to start by talking about the time when I lived in Beijing for a couple of years, and I would often eat street food. It was just right present on the streets, in the alleys, little carts and bicycles that serve food off the back of them with small little griddles, just cooking up all sorts of really delicious food. It was something that was like really a big part of the urban fabric there and really brought livelihood to the city. When I moved back to the US, the food truck movement was really starting to grow. It's grown very quickly. It's now $1 billion market in the US. But it also brings with it a very different characteristics from food bikes that I saw in China. So there's high capital costs. It costs at least $50,000 to start a food truck. It has a higher environmental footprint than restaurants where people normally eat because oftentimes they're running off generators instead of on the electricity grid. So essentially what I really want to do is bring this street food and these food bikes from China to the US. I want to do kind of a reverse technology transfer from the traditional sense. I want to do lower capital, lower footprint, mobile food. So I'm introducing a food bike that's going to be 1/10 of the cost of a food truck. So instead of $50,000, $5,000. And the food bike is going to have a 50% less environmental footprint per meal served than food trucks. So I'm setting up the Food Bikery to make and produce these bikes and equip food entrepreneurs with really a low capital, low footprint method to pursue mobile food in a way that's beneficial to them, the environment, and the city. Now I'm digging into kind of two tracks of work so far. One is regulatory, working with the city and county out here, and then one is kind of industrial design / business planning. So on the industrial design and business planning, I'm trying to design the best bicycle that I can such that it's easy to use and it's light and it's capital efficient, and it's fun and educational as well, but can also produce enough product so that the entrepreneur can sell enough meals per shift to make it to have it make financial sense for them. And then on the other side, I'm working with regulators to analyze kind of the history of the mobile food facility code and how that's developed, and how we can serve food off of basically bike trailers while still meeting health and safety requirements. But it's going to look a lot different from what food trucks look like, and that's exciting. So I was told I also need to maybe address like what I need help with. So I'm looking to talk to all sorts of industrial designers and to help with the design of a trailer. I have an initial design already worked up, and I have money to build it, but I'm tweaking the design, so I welcome a lot of feedback on that. And I'm also interested in talking with folks with experience working with city and county governments on introducing new regulations or changes to regulations, and particularly with the food code and mobile food facility code. I know that every city around the country is experiencing this growth in food trucks to some extent, but actually the regulations vary quite differently by geography. So that's me. That's the Food Bikery, and thanks so much for the opportunity to present my initial idea.
Great, thank you, John. Next, we're going to hear from Municipal Adaptation Strategy to Climate Change in Costa Rica with Sergio Molina Murillo.
Thank you. Yes, our strategy or our project is to develop a strategy for local adaptation to climate change in Costa Rica by empowering local actors, particularly within the agriculture and water resource sectors. Costa Rica, along with Central America, is considered a climate change hotspot, and this will create significant pressures on our biodiversity and productive systems. There are recent studies by the United Nations that indicate that our economy is 85% at risk, mostly related to climate change. So, in addition to that, in our particular municipality, we're going to work on this. There are increasing pressure in terms of pollution, in terms of rapid and disorganized urbanization processes, which are going to just exacerbate the problems that we have been trying to solve for the last 30 years in terms of development and poverty alleviation. So our strategy basically goes into work on mapping the current situation in terms of climate change knowledge and socioeconomic environmental vulnerability. Then in a participatory multi-stakeholder process with the municipal approval, which by the way we already got the commitment, we're going to create a climate change commission. We'll develop a climate change adaptation strategy that is officially adapted at the local government. Then in the second phase, we're going to work at the district level, so at the municipality, the county level, at the district level, we're going to create plans to adapt and reduce vulnerability to climate change. And then in these two particular sectors, the idea is to create and initiate adapt some technologies, agroecological technologies, and in a way that we can make this community, this local government, more resilient to climate change, manage the risk, and actually create opportunities for continual sustainable development. Who we are? So we are at the National University of Costa Rica. The team is built by a multi-stakeholder or multi-disciplinary group of experts. And actually the key thing that we're going to be doing is that we are a legitimate, trusted actor in the process. Municipality, local government normally are not, and universities actually are, for many years, rated as the most reputable or trusted organization within the country, state universities. And so we're going to be the facilitators of that. Of course, with our knowledge and expertise, we're going to build this process of awareness, training, education, and technologically adapting with them, so that these could be established here. We have already done this in other municipalities, not completely like in this case. So now we're bringing all the team together to build a complete case, and from this we can replicate into other municipalities around the country, and hopefully through Central America, which face similar issues. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from the Stop Groundwater Plan, Save $8 billion, from Saeed Majdi.
Thank you. So we have two guys from Texas, that's Dr. Tom Manaugh and me. Water scarcity problem in Las Vegas, and a solution in California. That's based on systems thinking and uses desalination. Desalination that will virtually extend the Colorado River all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Let's see how that could happen. You know, Las Vegas was founded in the Nevada desert in 1905. It uses, or gets, 90% of its water from nearby Lake Mead. It gets its water from Colorado River. The Bureau of Reclamation of the Department of the Interior administers the withdrawal of water from the Colorado River that goes to Las Vegas, to Southern California, and to other users. All these users have specific allotment or share of water. Las Vegas, though, is expecting massive population growth and also drought caused by climate change. But they have worked out a solution that they call the groundwater plan. This groundwater plan consists of pumping groundwater from the eastern region of Nevada and transporting it all the way to Las Vegas over a 263-mile course. A little bit of a problem. Experts and civic and environmental groups think it's not a good idea. They're opposing this groundwater plan. They think that it would be environmentally destructive and very costly at the price tag of $15 billion. Our plan that we propose as an alternative is the desalination plan. It consists of getting California to accept locally desalinated water from the Pacific Ocean in exchange for foregoing some of its allotment that it gets from the Colorado River so that it can go directly to Las Vegas. In exchange, Nevada pays for the desalination plant and a concentrating solar power plant that will power this desalination plant. We believe this is a better approach to the groundwater plan. We have broken down this desalination plan to 3 stages. In the first stage, we're going to form an advisory committee to address, among other things, legal and institutional issues to make sure that there's a legal vehicle available for the implementation of the desalination plan. If the desalination plan is implemented, we believe that both Nevada and California will get the water that they need without depleting the groundwater resources they have in eastern Nevada and without destroying the environment in the process. Now, the help that we need right now is to get the word out, because the groundwater plan is a de facto solution. There is no other alternative to it. The civic and environmental groups that I mentioned earlier, they're in opposition to the groundwater plan, but if they know about the desalination plan that we're proposing, then their opposition will be more successful. Thank you.
Next, we're hearing from GreenUp, engaging communities to build green and resilient cities in India, with Aditi Sen.
Hello everyone, I'm Aditi and I'm very excited to be here today. So my proposal, GreenUp, supports urban communities to create green, climate-smart cities, and it does this by connecting communities, providing communities access to funds, local partners, and information. So in 2012, Hurricane Sandy flooded the streets of New York, washing away homes, destroying businesses. In 2009, Typhoon Kitsana devastated the city of Manila. And in 2005, my city, Mumbai, witnessed the worst flooding in its history, killing over 1,000 people and countless others' lives were destroyed, particularly of poor people who live in the city's low-lying areas in slums. Cities are increasingly at the risk, are increasingly on the front lines of climate change impacts, particularly flooding. And the risks are worst for mega cities in Asia, which are among the fastest growing cities in the world. But small actions that communities can take can make a big difference. So planting a tree, for example, can actually absorb around 4,000 gallons of water a year. So actions like creating gardens, planting trees, make a huge difference in making cities resilient by absorbing stormwater, providing other benefits such as reduced heat island effects, improved air quality, and quite frankly, greener cities are quite nicer to live in. But in many cities around the world, particularly in developing countries, these cities are growing unsustainably. But it doesn't have to be that way. Building green, climate-smart cities is possible. In the slums of Mumbai, a small community worked with a local nonprofit to transform a garbage dump into a garden. Now imagine if this were to happen across the city, across several cities. And it can happen if community groups get the support they need. And that's what GreenUp is about, providing communities the support they need to create green, climate-smart cities. And it does this in 3 simple ways. 1, crowdfunding that enables communities to raise funds both from individuals as well as from organizations. 2, working with local partners who can provide the support needed to implement such projects on the ground. And 3, tools for learning and sharing. So this is really about crowds and climate, using crowds to connect communities to money, people, and ideas. Because money is not the only thing that matters, right? So how would this work? So a community wants to install a green roof. Let's say a school wants to install a green roof. We help them raise funds through the platform. We connect them with local partners who can provide the technical support needed to implement the green roof. And we provide tools that support their learning over time, and also that allows them to share their own story, and hopefully their story will then inspire others in the community to take similar action. So that's the idea. So in terms of impacts, we're looking to increase green spaces within cities and foster ecological awareness. To date, we road tested the idea in Bombay and we received positive response, but we do, there's a huge potential for something like this to go to scale, but to do that, we need your support. First and foremost, we're looking for collaborators. If you want to help build out the technology, or if you want to contribute your expertise or your connections to a platform like GreenUp, I'd love to connect with you. We are also obviously looking for some funding to take it to the next level. So if you can fund us or know someone who can fund us, again, I'd love to connect with you. I've been a city person all my life, hence my Twitter name, Urban Mom. And cities face a lot of challenges, but cities are also the center of innovation, idea, creativity. There's tremendous amounts of energy and talent in cities, and if we can collect, actually harness that energy and creativity in cities, we can actually transform that challenge into an opportunity. The journey to a climate-smart world starts with our communities. Let's make that happen with GreenUp.
And last, we're hearing from Future Mangroves, and we will be watching a video. They can't join us in person today.
The proposal Future Mangrove addresses specific challenges. 1, to improve the economic status of coastal communities. 2, to provide protection to eroding coasts. 3, adaptation measure to rising sea level. In this proposal, coastal communities collect and germinate mangrove seeds and grow them in modules containing more than 1 seedling each. The modules are constructed from available local materials such as coconut coir or shell or trunk. Small machine shops put the mangrove seeds and set up to manufacture the modules in bulk. Villagers develop additional skills in deploying the modules to the coast. As mangroves mature, additional goods could be obtained in a sustainable manner. When the mangroves are fully developed, these are a potential for ecotourism. The main stakeholders are villagers from a coastal community. The local or provincial government and the private sector will be involved when necessary. The project is to be implemented in the Philippines or in Asia, where the needs of the coastal communities are the greatest. The project is replicable in other coastal areas in developing countries. This project has many benefits. Coastal community benefit from progressive development as mangroves provide increasingly provisioning, regulating, and cultural services as they mature. Planting mangroves on a modular scale is climate change adaptation, as mangroves protect eroding coasts, are buffered to 4 to 5 meter tsunami waves, keep up with sea level rise of 1 millimeter per annum if conditions are suitable, and mangroves are carbon sink. The total cost of the proposed project is $20,000 for immediate implementation without involving research and development costs. I have already taken several steps to make the proposal a reality, develop contact with interested parties in Southeast Asia in implementing the project, develop contact with NGOs for joint application for funding, gain experience in sourcing mangrove seeds, germinating and planting, thought out various mangrove designs made from local materials. To implement the proposal, funding is required from prize money, matching funds from the private sector, from NGOs, portion of my annuity. In conclusion, planting mangroves on a modular scale contributes to the economic development of coastal communities, protects eroding coasts, and is a climate change adaptation to rising sea level. The project can be implemented immediately and is a win-win case for development and adaptation.
So now we'll hear briefly from our panelists.
Prompt us again about what you would like us to be commenting on. First of all, I will say that I'm Henrietta Davis, former mayor of your fair city here in Cambridge, and I'm very impressed with these proposals and the grandeur of them. They far outstrip anything we've ever done locally, that's for sure. Although the bikes are more on that small local kind of level. I'm a tremendous supporter of local action. I think that local action has made all the difference in our country in terms of response to climate change. Especially if you can consider Cambridge a city of 100,000, Boston, Chicago, New York. These are where all the heroic actions are taking place in our country. It's at the municipal level, and it's with municipal government as well as local stakeholders. So I have 1 minute. Am I done yet? I guess my key challenge question for the proposals or for discussion is about stakeholders, really. And since climate change is a worldwide problem that needs everybody to be a part of it, how do these proposals engage the right stakeholders to make the right kinds of decisions? In terms of government, as you look at these proposals, as I do, I think some of these have governmental obstacles that I wouldn't want to have to deal with, and others are really within reach. And that I always, when I'm looking at solutions on the local level, I'm looking for what can we do. What can we do with the powers that we already have that can make a big difference? So in Cambridge, I'm going to go do a little plug. We have a net zero task force. One of the members of the task force, at least one, is here with me today. And our intention is by 2050 to reduce our carbon emissions to zero from buildings. And so we think we can do that because we have the power. We're not asking for anything different. We're engaging stakeholders, building a movement, and going forward block by block to make that happen. So anything where you have the power almost there already, I see that as something that's worth pursuing, very worth pursuing, and analyzing how it engages the many in the solution of climate change, I think is one of the challenges that we all should be looking at. that the right answer to the right question? Here you go.
Okay, I'm Eric. I'm a PhD student at DUSP. I would like to echo what Henrietta was talking about. And I think they brought me on because they wanted somebody to speak to an urban context outside of the US context. Building off of the stakeholder, I would urge the very innovative projects out here to consider the institutional, political, and economic contexts that these projects are trying to operate in the cities themselves. Developing country cities obviously have a lot of constraints, economically, politically, but they also have a lot of opportunities because of these constraints. A lot of experiments and innovations have been going on. So I would urge some of these projects to find synergies within the cities themselves, with people that are already working in them, to try to find mutual interests. For example, Costa Rica has a lot of adaptation projects going on already. Indian cities, a lot of green building technologies are already happening. So what are potentials for further partnerships within these cities? How can we kind of better account for shared benefits? How can we share information between some of these innovations and experiments? And how do we better match funds, capacities, resources in a constrained context? And just to get kind of the biggest bang out of our buck. So I think that's my comment.
It's nice to go last because they said a lot of things I was thinking about, and thank you, Henrietta, for really starting that off. Cynthia Green and I work for EPA in Boston, so I work on a regional level. And I think a couple of things that I saw was looking at what we already have that potentially could play into these things. And I'm thinking of the food bikes. One of the things that they're grappling with is the issue of refrigeration. Could we use the infrastructure that we're putting in place for electric vehicles to help them out? Are there infrastructure pieces like that that are already out there that potentially would help some of these other projects? One of the other areas I'm thinking about also is the public engagement. We all probably in this room understand climate change. I don't believe on a global scale people really do understand global climate change. And I was thinking about the green infrastructure. And some people, I sort of was talking about it because I was fascinated by this crowdsourcing idea. And someone said to me, well, who would fund that? I said, okay, do you really understand that now we're talking about the 1 in 100 year storm being 8.5 inches of rain? When you think about that, and you think about where would I be when that happens, and how much rain, how would that affect me, maybe you would think about, maybe I want to control some of that storm water. So I think the public engagement really is important to make sure they understand this issue. And then finally, I wanted just to address this issue of thinking really outside of the box and thinking outside of just your local. And I think that really is the LA and Las Vegas project, where you didn't say, I'm going to be constrained by just what's here in my local area in Las Vegas, and think much more globally about what are the water sources. And I love that project in the thinking about the economics of it. It saves money by thinking outside of the box and possibly solving the problem in a very different way. So can we think regionally to solve the local problems? And if you were at the session earlier today, Reggie, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, really did that. They took it outside of the states and they said, let's look at this regionally. So regional public engagement and what's out there that we already can use.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists. So they're going to stick around while we break up into groups and brainstorm. So the goal is to come up with ideas together about how we can best help out the presenters with all the ideas that we saw today. How can we put those into action? So the presenters will be here as well to answer any questions, take your feedback, and we'd also like to encourage you to, when you discuss these proposals, to submit your feedback online as well on the Colette website or on the app on your phones. Thank you.